This is afternoon edition on 5 Live. Dotun Adebayo and Sarah Brett with you until 4.
The number of people out of work in the UK is now at its lowest rate for 6 years. It fell by 97,000 in the 3 months to December to 1.86 million. But there's still an issue with women being underrepresented in growth areas such as science, business and broadcast media, as well as in engineering, where only 7% of the professional workforce are female.
Well, now the government has launched a new campaign aimed at supporting women to get into these types of industries using the hashtag NotJustForBoys. One woman who has already made it is Elizabeth Varley, founder and CEO of TechHub, a global community for technology entrepreneurs. Thanks for being with us. Does it surprise you that we still need a campaign like this?
I think that there's always going to be a bias, both conscious and unconscious, in different industries in terms of people advancing. But there's also the need to show really positive role models of all sorts of diverse people to encourage that diversity of people coming through into those roles.
Yeah, you mentioned the bias there. Is it a problem then that some industries are more likely to employ one gender or another, or let's face it, more likely to employ men than women? Some industries, it's almost natural, isn't it, for them to employ men rather than women?
We see this kind of bias in different sorts of industries. It's not just about women in science and technology. It's also about men in teaching and nursing and things like that. And I think what we really need to be focusing on is how to encourage people to make the decisions that are right for them and their aptitude and their passions, rather than focusing on what they think might be appropriate for something like their gender.
You've talked about something called the purple elephant, Elizabeth, which is capitalise on the fact that you're different, essentially. Is that what you've done in the tech world, traditionally a male-dominated industry?
I don't think it's something that I've done consciously. However, there are all sorts of different things that can make you memorable in an industry. For me, being female in a male-dominated industry is one of those things. But I may equally be memorable because I'm Australian in a room full of English people. So I think it's about using what you have and taking advantage of that rather than seeing it as a disadvantage.
I wonder how many of those industries are actually resistant to being more equal, gender equal, and what can be done about that?
I think there are opportunities to remove particularly unconscious bias when hiring or promoting. When you look at things like the classical music industry, where there was an overwhelming bias towards men being chosen for orchestral roles, once they made it a blind audition process where you can't physically see the person, you can only hear the music they're producing, the number of women who were selected for those roles shot up. So I think there are ways that we can remove those things that we don't even realise we're doing.
You see, I found it strange that you didn't take issue with me when I said a moment ago, in some industries, it's almost natural that they're going to employ more men. I've got 2 teenage daughters, and if somebody said that to them, I'd be upset. I'd be angry.
Well, of course, there's nothing about this being natural or otherwise. We, as a society, stereotype people into gender roles from a very, very young age. We see that through toys, through clothes, through books and stories. This is really about looking at this as a social problem, not as a women's issue, and making the opportunity for people to choose the things that are right for them personally. I mean, why on earth should your gender matter when it comes to choosing what you're passionate about?
What about positive discrimination and quotas for companies? Do you agree with that?
I think it's really a very challenging issue, but it's one that has helped to redress balances. I think everybody wants to believe that they're choosing the right person for the job, and this is where looking at ways to remove unconscious bias can perhaps be more effective.
Yes, I mean, does that mean that you support it or not?
I think it's really difficult. I wouldn't make a choice for someone in a role based on their gender. Absolutely not. But then I'd like to think that I'm not so biased about making that decision in the first place.
women are being, or girls are being encouraged hugely, as are lots of teenagers now, to be doing the STEM subjects and to get into engineering because it's the way forward, etc. How long do you think it will take, if you think about, you know, how still all the top CEOs are mostly men, but how long do you think it will take for women to break through in an area like engineering where only 7% of the workforce are female?
I think we'll probably see a real swell. I think these things often take a while to begin, but once you see more people who are like you, whether that's your gender, your ethnicity, or other things, succeeding in different careers, in different industries, then we'll start to see sort of a sudden increase in that sort of thing. You look at the medical profession, for example, where we see a lot more women are now more present in that industry, and that sort of took some time, but then has quite sort of quickly reached a groundswell.
And just one more quick one, Elizabeth. I don't know if you've had children yet, or if you want to have children, or whatever. But I know a lot of women complain about when they go off to have kids, they come back and the ground's been swept away from under them, and they can never make it back to that level that they were before. Is that something that you think is true, or?
I think this again goes back to looking at this as a broader social issue. When having children becomes something for women to think about or for women to plan careers around versus for people to plan their careers around, that's when we have the problem. It should be as much of a consideration for men as it is for women.
Thank you very much for talking to us, Elizabeth Varley,
thank you very much.
Who's the founder and CEO of TechHub, a global community for technology entrepreneurs.